Hey, hello, and welcome. We've been gone for a little while because we didn't feel so well. But we feel a bit better now. So that's nice. Except for that yesterday I could barely sit in my chair because the heat is killing me. Today it's also going to be a warm as fuck morning, Wayne. Tomorrow it's going to be like 25 degrees. I'm like, yes, maybe I can breathe. And now tonight will be the first night when it's actually a little bit colder during the nights. Cool, right? Very nice. I look forward to it a lot. Because tonight, I did not sleep much. Because of this fact that it's hot as a fucking oven. But who gives a fuck? We're here now, me and Willy. Willy is on a little pillow. And we are going to read 2 chapters of A Soldier's Life and feel a little bit better. Hopefully. Hopefully Eric and company will cheer us up. And then we'll proceed to like clean the apartment and shit. Yay, so fun. Looking forward to it. That's how it is though. I also started watching Friends again and The Walking Dead. Crazy. That's how much fun I've had. Hopefully, you've had it better. Anyway, last time on A Soldier's Life, we went with Rena. Out in the woods, there were orcs. We got attacked. We told Rena, leave. She flew away. Eric killed all the orcs, of course, like 10 or 11 or 9 or whatever the fuck it was. It was crazy anyway. They came up from the fucking waters and shit. One of them was in a swamp, I think. But anyway, Full on Shrek moment. Then Eric gets found by the hounds and has to explain himself. And I guess it works well because they don't fucking like arrest him or kill him. So then they take him back to Cinna and all the other, and Rena and stuff. We have not seen Rena yet. Where is Rena? Well, apparently she attacked Cassius because he was the one who said that we should go into the woods without help from him. So since he's a first citizen, he's pissed and he's like, I will fucking make sure that she gets killed or something. I don't know. So now we have to fucking save Rena from Cassius' wrath. And then we've also heard that there are orcs on the way when it comes to the bigger war out there in the world. The orcs are advancing. So we will see how it goes today. In chapter 205, Cram Session. Cinna didn't return by dark, and I was left to my own devices. I spent most of the night in the alchemy lab doing prep work. I wanted to stockpile pellets if my time with the hounds was approaching. The blindness and sneezing powder had been incalculably effective in the fight with the Pathfinders. I worked late into the night, expecting Cinna to return. When I gave up on her return, I took the minor quickness essence and my only apex illusion essence and entered the dreamscape for a few hours. After adding some orc pathfinders to the dreamscape, I quickly realized their fighting ability was inferior to that of the elite Colosseum orcs. I let Constantine engage them for a while before turning my attention to fighting both Constantine and Xavier. It wasn't a punishment I sought, but rather a realization that I needed to do better to be better prepared for the challenge of fighting multiple opponents simultaneously. Smart. Before leaving the dreamscape, I delved into the spell forms of the illusion affinity, with one major essence of illusion remaining. I saw the potential to elevate the affinity beyond 10. This goes to 11. The 3 lesser spell forms in the book piqued my interest. Illusionary Mask, which requires a 10 affinity. Shadow Verge, which requires a 15 affinity. And Mirror Image, which requires 20. Each held a unique utility. You don't say. The Illusionary Mask spell created an illusion over a small area. Wow. About a cubic foot. That's a cube. Its primary use was disguising yourself with someone else's face. The problem was, it was a static image. Oh, well. So it's like literally you have a face mask on. Meaning the lips would not move when you talked, and there were no facial expressions. Okay. The illusion did move with the mage, so it could be placed elsewhere in the body. The size of the illusion grew with the affinity as well, doubling in volume every 10 points, but the spell form would never animate the illusion, turning me off from the selection. Agreed. Shadow Merge didn't actually merge you with the shadows. Instead, it was a powerful chameleon ability that perfectly blended with shadows. The problem was you couldn't move out of the shadow, or you would break the spell. You could attack from the shadows, and it would not be disrupted, so it had some uses as an assassin skill. Sounds very cool, sounds very Shadow Slave, which we love. Mirror Image was much more interesting. It created a copy of a person or object from which the mage could talk to, blah 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 blah. It created a copy of a person or object from which the mage could walk away. The illusionary person was inanimate, but would last for an hour after the mage abandoned it, or he could sustain it indefinitely by remaining in contact with it and supplying a trickle of ether. Ooh. All 3 options would have seemed fantastical before I had arrived in this world. Now I needed to get the most utility out of every spell form I inscribed on my core. I hadn't planned to review the mid-tier spell forms since I lacked the ability to imprint them. The mid-tier illusion spell forms had the good stuff. Alter Self, Invisibility, and Silent Sphere. Okay, Invisibility and alter self, I can at least put silent sphere. Oh, isn't that the like when you put like a sphere and then everything in here is quiet, like no one can hear you. Haven't someone used that already once? Alter Self was the upgraded version of the illusionary mask. Maybe literally someone did in Shadow Slave, and I'm just thinking that it was here. That that's a thing over there. After Alter Self was the upgraded version of the illusionary mask. Sorry, I have to yawn. It changed the mage's entire body, including their clothes. The illusion was an overlay, and facial expressions and clothes appeared to move naturally. It would be a way to blend into a crowd rapidly, but the affinity requirement was 30. I don't know what he has. Invisibility was as advertised. It didn't hide your scent, sound, or tracks. But as long as the mage focused and supplied ether, they would remain invisible. It had a lot of applications. The required affinity was also 30. The silent sphere created a bubble around the mage that moved out to 15 feet with the mage. The sphere could be enlarged with a higher affinity. Okay. Wait. It's just a bubble? Not not anything about it being quiet or like you can see the bubble like okay. For protection? Question mark. I didn't look at the higher tier spell forms. Why a lust after something I had no chance of getting? Exiting the dreamscape, I used the tablet reader and took in my illusion affinity. It was 10. It would end up at 12 or 13 with one major illusion affinity left. I was in the same dilemma as I was with learning a displacement spell form. The displacement spell forms I was interested in utilized much more ether than I had available. With the illusion affinity, the best spell forms required an affinity of 30. The only place I had gained the illusion essence was from the greater shapeshifters in the shimmering labyrinth, who were pretending to be elven children. I had no desire to return to the depths of that dungeon, but Constantine had noted doppelgangers were not uncommon in cities, so perhaps with luck I could find some, and kill them and take their essence. Was it prudent to wait, or should I start learning illusionary mask? It would be useful, especially since no one would know I had the ability. I went through my morning fitness routine on the balcony. The city seemed less lively, with fewer street lights lit and the moving lights of people. I rushed through the sword forms with the Orc's Torment, Magebane, and the Black Spear in the common room. I dressed in my common clothes and packed my resin hide armor, with plans to get it repaired by Ignis. Normally, Colm would patch up our armor, and I would buff off the marks. But if I could get Ignis to do it for me, for just a book, why not? As I descended the towers, it was much quieter than normal, and the doors to all the libraries were closed. Was there a holiday, or had something happened? Very few mages wandered the courtyard, and the Imperial Legionnaires guarding the Imperial grounds stopped me. No one is to enter the palace grounds today, Legionnaire. Has something happened? I asked, while setting the bag of armor on the ground. The old Legionnaire looked confused that I didn't know what was going on. The city is under curfew, and only those summoned to the palace may enter. The mages are all discussing defense plans for the college and city. No classes are being held. I repeated myself. Has something happened? Is Chancellor Cinna okay? He seemed agitated about having to explain things to me, even after I had passed through his gate numerous times. The orcs have launched attacks against the Empire on the seas, Varveo, and they even tried to assassinate young mages. As far as I know, all the chancellors in the city are meeting with the Emperor. It was more information than I probably could have hoped for from the old Legionnaire. I picked up my armor and thought it best to return to the tower. As I climbed the stairs, I thought about putting on my armor and sneaking out to the Adventurers Guild. It seemed like an opportune time to do so. And what is he going to do there? I don't remember this. Another thought occurred to me. I stepped off the next landing and knocked softly on a door. No one answered, and I tried to open it. The double door was made of wood, but had no lock. It groaned on its rarely used hinges as I pushed with my shoulder. When it was open enough, I dragged my armor inside and pushed it closed. I recalled the mage curators of all the libraries were part of the college's defense, so the libraries were abandoned. This library had spell forms and how to defend against spell forms. Hundreds of books lined the shelves, divided by affinity. There should be other spell forms for illusion affinity here, but I was also curious about some other spell forms for affinities I had yet to be able to find. I groaned in disappointment as I didn't find any books on the world affinity. However, there were about half a dozen books on void affinity. I paged through all of them and planned to evaluate them in the dreamscape. Even though my materialism affinity was only 9, I added books related to it next. I heard voices in the hall and paused until they faded away. When are we going to hear what happened to my favorite little elf? She got a griffin egg and then nothing? Right. I don't even remember her name. But like maybe it's in her, yeah. What was her name? Because it's Rena, Sina, and then it's like something that is almost the same again. Reina, isn't it? Or no? No, that doesn't make sense. It's something fairly close though, I swear to God. But yeah. Where is she? Maybe we have to wait until the egg hatches and then she'll have a griffin and then we'll see her again. I moved to the illusion affinity and pulled the 3 books on lesser spell forms first and paged through them slowly. There were 5 more spell forms listed that only required a 10 affinity. Silent Steps, Light, Night Vision, Dazzling Lights, and Ventriloquism. Silent Steps immediately caught my attention, as it was a lesser form of a silent sphere that just affected a small radius around the mage's feet. I didn't get it at first. I was like, Silent Steps. He heard Silent Steps. And then I was like, oh shit, someone's coming. I was like, wait, Silent Steps should not be heard. And he just said it. That it's an affinity. The simple light spell would be useful too, but I had glowstones. I passed by the time affinity books, paused and backtracked. It would be useful information. I read about using the time affinity to reverse aging versus slow aging. Much of the text confirmed that Cinna had implied about the Emperor. Reverse the effects of aging using spells is always temporary, as normal aging resumes immediately. During the rejuvenation process, the body returns to an earlier chronological state. It is important that the body has already been reinforced with physical essences, otherwise the process will consume an unhealthy amount of tissue while being spelled. It should also be noted the process does not cross over to mental attributes. To maintain a sharp mind for centuries, dungeon artifacts that incorporate a slow-aging spell form are suggested to protect the mind and body from the inevitability of time. It is not understood why the human mind deteriorates past 2 centuries, as the elves maintain mental acuity well past 9 centuries. Maybe because it's another species? I stopped reading, but it's like, why does a fly only live for like a week and a human lives for like 80 years? Well, because it's a different species. I stopped reading but paged to the end and then went and looked through the slow aging spell form and smiled. I hadn't fucked up like I thought. Senna must not have been aware. Oh, that is right. I never told her my concerns, and as she was unaware, I never told her my concerns, and as she was unaware, I had imprinted the spell form for slow aging. Slow aging encompasses the mind and body in the process. It was an inefficient spell as it had to be maintained all the time, but as a spell form it was extremely valuable. I was a little giddy as I paged through the fire affinity and water affinities next. I was staring at the air affinities when the door groaned behind me. Oops. Soft whispers and grunts entered the room, and a skinny young mage in a grey robe stumbled. A youthful male followed, and they immediately turned to close the door. I was behind a shelf but could see them clearly through the books. Then they should see him as well, no. Or maybe not. Actually, I take that back. After they closed the door, they were breathing loudly and giggling to themselves. Oh, wait, no. No? I don't want to see... I don't want Eric to be third wheeling. I feel like... Immediately, dude. No, the straw-haired girl was leaning heavily against the door and listening. The boy reassured her. They're supposed to be meeting all day. No one will find us here. He moved into her and pinned her from behind to the door. Okay, this is... No. I don't want to read. Oh no, Eric, please no. For a moment, I thought she was going to be raped and was going to intervene. But do you think so? They're both laughing. Dude, this has to be a rape situation. But her neck strained back and they kissed passionately. Oh, good. They were completely oblivious to my presence as their passion flared. Then she pushed him back, dropped her robe, and rushed him. He stumbled over my bag of armor, swearing violently as he fell. Cupid's curse. Okay, so he has a. Okay. I heard a small pop as he braced himself with one hand, but the weight of two people broke his wrist. I recognized the sound of a broken bone well. Nothing like some bad luck to spoil the moment, I said, stepping out from behind the shelves. Wow. The boy was holding in tears and trying not to sob from the pain. The young girl looked panic-stricken at her injured boyfriend and my appearance. I didn't recognize either of them. The boy couldn't hold on to his masculinity and started to scream, cradling his arm. I rolled my eyes and stepped to help, but his cries were heard in the hallway, and soon the door was being pressed open again with the hinges groaning. One of the tower's porters, a barrel-chested man I was familiar with, grunted as he entered and assessed the screams of pain. Go get a healing mage, I ordered, as a servant also poked her head in. The boy took minutes to calm. The straw-haired girl wanted to be anywhere but here by her expression, but more and more tower attendants and grey and white robed mages crowded the room. I was slightly surprised when they parted, and Cinna entered the room. What has happened here? She demanded, and her eyes locked to mine. She did not look happy. I answered before the two mages. I was doing some research. These two entered. The color drained from the young girl. I changed my mind about outing them. They heard me inside and asked if they could also come and study. The boy tripped and landed awkwardly, breaking his arm. Cinna's eyes narrowed. I guess I was a bad liar because I could see she did not believe me. First Citizen Stella, go to your room. Mage Claudio, report to the infirmary. The two young mages were soon gone, and the mage curator for this library arrived angry. The old woman didn't like legionnaires from my few encounters with her, or maybe it was just me. Cinna waved dismissively to calm her down. Hedria, it had been handled. It has been handled. None of your books have been damaged. Mage I don't know if it's Hadria or Hadria. I will go with Hadria because it's easier to say. Mage Hadria did not believe the Chancellor and immediately moved into the shelves, where I suspected she would check every book. Cinna shook her head. Sentinel, go and prepare my dinner. I nodded compliantly, picked up my armor, and climbed the tower. Cinna arrived as I was making a bear roast for her. What really happened? She ranted. Wow, we're really not like. I like this straight to the thing. Like no, like and then blah blah blah, and I made this blah blah blah. It's like okay, now we're here already. I was studying in the library. The two mages entered and didn't see me. They were in the process of getting undressed, and the boy tripped and broke his arm. I explained. She just sighed. Well, if First Citizen Stella wants to sully herself, her father can handle it. Baron Martin is not a forgiving man. Maybe I can have Mage Claudio sent to the western border. I stopped her self-monologue. What has been happening? What hasn't been happening? The orcs are attacking shipping all along the coast. All merchant ships have been warned to stay in port. The Emperor refuses to pull the navy away from the threat posed by the Essenham elves, and the orcs will soon be raiding small towns all along the coast. I could understand her anger, as one of those towns was her tiny barony. Cinna wasn't done yet. The Emperor continued to plan to march himself to Macha and the dig site against the advice of his chancellors. She looked at me. Just a minute ago, I was pulled from the assembly for the city's defense, saying my sentinel had attacked a pair of mages. Oh, I laughed out loud to kill her frustration. You should definitely fire him then. Send that traitorous sentinel far to the south to pick cabbage. Since I returned, I have had to refuse 7 requests for your services from dukes and counts. She let out an evil smirk. One of those requests was by Duke Octavian on behalf of his niece, Mage Ona. My heart thundered in my chest. Cassius's twin sister had requested me to serve her. That made little sense. Why? Cornelius completed his report, and every duke, count, and baron in the city has read it. The Pathfinders were targeting the mages, not Renna specifically, but all of them. The necromancer confirmed it on questioning the dead hounds. She let that sink in while she got herself a drink. You killed 9 Pathfinders alone. With the Empire about to be besieged, every first citizen is looking for a shield to hide behind when the fireballs and lightning starts flying. Harpy's tits, I cursed. Don't worry. Cornelius' report had another purpose. Your skills are needed in the hounds. It will come and collect you in a week. She drained her glass. I thought I would have looked forward to training with the hounds, but not so much anymore. We were both silent for a while, and the smell of the roast filled the kitchen. I hesitated momentarily, weighing our trust, then pulled an amulet from my dimensional space and placed it between us. How do I use this? Cinna's eyes were puzzled as she reached for it. She had probably expected the Dreamscape amulet, but this was something else. Where did you obtain this? From the orcs? It looks like an elven artifact. She studied it closely for a while, turning it in her hands. It probably is elven. It is an arcane armor amulet. How do I use it? I asked patiently as she continued to study it. I could feel a hint of ether from her as she explored it. Her eyes went wide in surprise after a few moments. No, this is not an arcane armor amulet. It is something much more precious. Her serious eyes studied mine, and she repeated herself. Where did you get this, Eric? He always finds the most shiniest things. Lucky little scavenger. Chapter 206. Just Rewards. I had done messed up. Why not just... I had messed up. I had done messed up, dude. I was so confident the amulet was etheric armor that I was at a loss for words. Cinna slid the amulet back to me in a show of trust. So what is it? I asked dryly. It is an affinity amulet, she said confidently. It attunes ether to a specific affinity. The purer the ether used in a spell form or spell, the stronger the spell. I immediately understood that this amulet increased the effectiveness of your spells. Yeah. Good job, Eric. What affinity does the amulet enhance? I asked excitedly. Cinna studied me a moment before answering. Wow. The charm affinity. It can enhance mind magic. She pressed her fingers together into a pyramid and raised an eyebrow. So where did you get it? I tried not to reveal anything with my facial expression as I weighed my answer. She had earned my trust, but I was still hesitant. It belonged to Treliorn, the elven summoner. He didn't need it anymore. Cinna didn't look as surprised as I thought she would be. She slowly nodded. It makes sense. Bending a creature to your will is the domain of summoners. Do you plan to keep it? I shook my head no. My charm affinity was just 5, and I had no essence for the affinity. Having given all the charm essences from the harpies to Raelia. Raelia! See, that's her name. It was almost the same. For saving my life. I did think of something. Can you trade it for me? Ooh. For an arcane armor amulet, Sin asked. It is more valuable than a simple arcane armor amulet, she scoffed. A channeling essence as well, I responded quickly. Channeling essence? Why would you want a channeling essence? Cinna studied me, trying to look into my soul. I admitted my secret. My other channels are burnt. It happened when I encountered the elven summoner. Cinna seemed to reevaluate everything she knew about me. Really? She shook her head in sympathy. Poor boy. You hide the pain well. Usually I can tell such things. How badly were your channels damaged? I lost 1 point of potential, I admitted. Cinna winced as I admitted it. It is not that this amulet is not worth the channeling essences. That would help you restore your channels. But it would take 3 to 5 apex channeling essences to heal your other channels, depending on the extent of your damage and the purity of the apex essences. No insult intended, but there are burnt mages in the Empire who are much more important than you. She bit her lip and sighed helplessly. I was quiet for a time, pretending to think. Pretend. Head empty. Each major essence would elevate some of my pain. How many major channeling essences could you get for me? I asked. Senna nodded. For major essences, it would take 30 to 40 to heal your channels. Wow. You are not raising your potential, only healing damage to restore lost potential. It would take over a 100 lesser essences to do the same. Sina thought for a moment, her fingers interlocked and dancing. I would be getting them for me. Only first citizens can purchase major and apex essences in the Empire. I know a few mages who would have the resources to acquire this amulet in trade. But even then, accumulating 5 apex channels in... Hello, Citra! Welcome. But even then, accumulating 5 apex channeling essences would take them a year or longer. How many apex essences is the amulet worth? I questioned, thinking I could get some other apex essences. Did not seem to understand what I was asking. 10 would be a fair trade. However, just like channeling, most magical attributes and essences are difficult to obtain. What essences would you consider for the amulet? I considered briefly before listing all 5 options. Channeling, shaping, etherpool, earth, and quickness. But at least one would need to be channeling. Cinna laughed. Saturn's ghost, Eric. The quickness might be possible. High Mage Dacian fervently seeks out all earth essences. Every first citizen with a modicum of magical ability seeks etherpool and shaping essences. It took Senna a while to stop laughing and compose herself. I will inquire. Do you trust me with the amulet? I only have an idea of how strong it is as my charm affinity is so small. Any interested first citizen is going to want to test it. It would not help me, and if I could eliminate my other burn by trading the amulet, I would take it. I pushed the amulet back toward her. Senna asked the inevitable question. Do you carry anything else from Treliorn that you want to part with? She was expecting a reply. No, nothing else, I stated. That was a reply. I was sure she had intentionally not asked me if I had taken anything else from the Elven Summoner. I checked on the rose to break from her piercing gaze. It was medium rare, bloody pink. I sliced the rose thin, poured boiling gravy on the slices, and served it with rosemary bread. Senna focused on the meal, but she was obviously suspicious. Maybe she had already searched the packs in my room and knew about the other artifacts. After Senna finished the meal, she thanked me and retreated to the baths. Coming out of the baths, she was wearing thin white cotton clothes that were slightly damp. I will be in meetings all day tomorrow, but will be back for dinner. The following day, classes will resume, and Rena will be available to supervise you in the libraries in the evening. What about Flora and Livia? I said, keeping my eyes from drifting. Senna's face twitched a little. Livia has been moved into Antonia's villa in the upper city. Antonia is rushing her agenda for a diplomatic mission. You will not have a chance to wish her well. Her tone was heavy and maybe remorseful. I could tell that Senna was not happy with sending the young woman on such a dangerous mission. The only reason she was selected was for her poor healing spell form. And Flora? She is getting personal tutoring by Mage Christus. She is no longer being considered a mage candidate, as we need her to imprint a spell form for discern truth. 3 truth seekers were killed recently. We also need to clear beds for an influx of new students. It sounded like the Empire was being assaulted behind the scenes. Did the displacement mage in Varveo live? I asked, after I processed everything. His legionnaires did their duty, Senna nodded. All displacement mages are having their leading guards doubled. She smiled slightly. Castile's company may be assigned to such guard duty when they return. I couldn't help but smile at that. Knowing Constantine would go stir crazy being confined to a city, I was sure he would find excitement somewhere and drag others along for the ride. Senna headed into her room and intentionally left the door ajar. I stared at the door for a time before turning my back and heading to the alchemy lab. Cinna was attractive for an 84-year-old woman, but there was an underlying danger of being intimate with her. Upsetting one of the most powerful mages in the Empire was only partly my concern. Although she did not appear manipulative with me, that possibility always stayed in the back of my mind. Was she playing nice because they needed me, or was she being genuine? I worked in the alchemy lab until dark, and Cinna never left her room. Cinna had an aversion to alchemy, and I don't think she has ever visited this room in my time here. I did my routine, and after my fitness and weapons practice, I checked on Cinna. She had already left, if she had even slept there. I shaved, dressed in my commoner's clothes, and descended the tower with the black blade in my dimensional space. I thought it was good. I was so sure that it was going to say in his hand, so I was like, in my dimensional hand. I was like, what? Does he have one of those? What the fuck does that even mean? I was hoping to pass for a common citizen. No way. That's gonna happen. You're tall as fuck and buff. My dark clothes were dull compared to the bright colors the wealthy enjoyed in the upper city. I was going to break Cinna's rules and head into the city and to the Adventurers Guild. The city was just waking up as I left the college. 2 Imperial Legionnaires stood guard. When is the curfew? I asked. The Legionnaire on the left looked me up and down. Sunset to sunrise. My real goal was to make sure these Legionnaires remembered me when I returned. Okay. Where is the best place to get some snacks in the city? I asked. The 2 Legionnaires looked at each other before one on the right spoke. There is a candied nut cart in Neptune's Tier Plaza. A blonde woman with braided hair runs the cart. The other Legionnaires let out a friendly smile. It is his cousin's cart, but it has the best nuts in the city. Great, I will bring some back for you. How long is your shift? I said amiably. We will be here until 2 hours after midday, the older Legionnaire said hopefully. The nuts are a large copper each. He started digging under his armor, and I held up my hand to stop him. It is my treat. I have a few errands to run from the mages, but we'll be back in a few hours with your treat. The Legionnaires looked doubtful at my offer, but I moved past them into the streets. I figured my enemies in the city wouldn't be watching the Mage College gates this early. I still remained on alert as I moved through the city. The streets were sparsely populated, and those who wandered seemed on guard. A few servants in dull clothing hurried from shop to shop, running errands for their masters. I strolled leisurely along the roads to Neptune's Tier Plaza. It was early morning, and the food carts were just beginning to set up. Among the sea of carts, only one blonde woman with braided hair stood out. I estimated her age to be in her early 30s and studied her cart. It held bundles of wrapped nuts, tightly shaped in heavy paper cones. I approached the woman, and she looked up. You need some sweet and salty nuts to break you fast, good man. Her eyes assessed my ability to pay. She had a tray that was 5 by 5 and could hold 25 cones. How much? I asked. 9 copper this early, around midday 10. Prices are high because honey is harder to get these days, but my nuts are freshly shelled, and I guarantee none are rancid. She smiled, her teeth near perfect, an unusual sight in the Italian Empire. If you have a bag, I will take your entire stock for 2 silver, I offered. Her mind went into overdrive, trying to figure out how much of a discount I was asking for. After she had done the calculations, she nodded. She could still go home and restock for the day. She had a heavy canvas bag and carefully folded the tops of the cones as she packed the nuts. I placed the coins down while she worked and headed off with my haul. I had stopped here first to make sure I had the nuts for the guards when I returned. I walked down the main road toward the lower city. The city became livelier the further I traveled from the Imperial Palace. Citizens rushed through the streets, trying to finish their work before the sun set. There were more soldiers and legionnaires in resin hide armor walking the streets than during my last visit. I reached the Adventurers Guild without any difficulty. The interior hadn't changed much since the last time I was here. I scanned the tables and looked for Guildmaster Icarus. I didn't see him, but recognized his daughter, Desdemona. She was playing cards at a table with 4 others. I was not drawing much attention until I approached her table. The entire table looks up, and Desdemona says, irritated, "Next round in about an hour. I will take your coins then." A thick-necked man to her right laughed. "Desdemona, you will be out of coin long before then." It only made the ship captain sour even more. "Desdemona, is Tarvin available?" I asked, a little unhappy she didn't recognize me. Then again, I was clean-shaven and not wearing Legion armor. "Ugh, Kraken's cock, what? You need an escort 30 feet? You want me to hold your cock while you piss too? What?" Desdemona threw her cards down, folding her hand. Her eyes ran over me and then narrowed. "You were that Legionnaire from a few months back." I smiled brightly at finally being recognized. She had barked out the words, and the entire common room seemed to go silent. Desdemona stood, knocking her chair back to the floor. She was angry, and thankfully, Icarus barked from a doorway. "Relax, Desdemona. He didn't order your ship locked down at the docks. Legionnaire, I will escort you back to see Tarvin." I nodded and followed the guildmaster. The guildmaster? "Thank you. Everyone seems on edge," I said as we reached the hallway leading to the back rooms. "Oh, the back rooms?" "The Emperor has closed down the Adventurers Hall. No one can leave the city or work postings. As you can imagine, a room full of adventurers who cannot work might get a bit agitated. There were 5 fights last night." We reached the door to Tarvin's room. "I will talk to the room." But I will talk to the room. "But if you think of stirring things up yourself, I will not hold them back." "I understand. Thank you." I turned and entered the room. The halfling was behind the counter, inventorying potions. Unlike Desdemona, his eyes lit up in recognition immediately. I never forget a face. Eric Marco. More Oblivion pills? Healing potion stock is pretty barren at the moment. Or did you decide to sell your trinket? The halfling stepped up behind his counter, wearing a merchant's smile. I wouldn't forget someone who brought in a dreamscape amulet either. I was guessing he was hopeful I was selling. I produced one of each of the orc's potions. "Got these off an orc pathfinder. Do you know what they are?" He took both vials, studied them in the light, and nodded. "There are rumors of pathfinders running wild in the Empire. Is that where you obtained these?" the halfling asked. I wasn't sure what the local rumor mill was churning out, but I decided the truth couldn't be bad. Yes, they were across the river but a distance from the capital. He nodded like he already knew, and I just confirmed his suspicions. "Lesser healing potion and an alertness potion," he said confidently, handing them back to me. "The healing potion is the blue one, and I am told they taste like soured milk. The alertness potion tastes like vomit. I had the misfortune of sampling one myself once." "Alertness potion?" I questioned, making them disappear. He puzzled out what I had done to make them disappear and smiled. "It is a powerful stimulant. It washes away fatigue and increases your clarity. It lasts about an hour, but not many people use them. Your heart beats twice as fast, and you need to drink a lot of water while under its effect. Also, you lose your sense of taste for days after. Are you selling?" "No, I will hold on to them for emergencies. I want to purchase some revelation scrolls," I said with a smile. "You would you? You don't strike me as having a strong affinity for clairvoyance." He laughed at my confused expression. "The spell forms on the scrolls are from the clairvoyance affinity. You need to channel ether into them through your clairvoyance aspect, just like a normal spell form." My plans started falling apart. I had planned to purchase a dozen revelation scrolls. "I had planned to get..." "Don't look so upset," Tarvin said, beaming at me. "Even if you could use the scrolls, interpreting the feedback from the spell takes years. I would be happy to identify anything you have. Rates have gone up a bit, 1 gold and 3 silver. I don't know when I will get a resupply with trade ships being locked down. I'm also out of healing potions. Always around on those when the scent of war is in the air." "Fine. I have a few things I want to be identified. I want to be identified. I want identified." The halfling stepped down and I followed him into his office. It was more crowded than last time and smelled a little worse. I took out the black jade chalice, not hiding my dimensional space abilities. Tarvin frowned as he handled the chalice. Never seen its like. He studied it for a bit longer before pulling out the revelation scroll. I placed the required coin on the desk. Can you make scrolls for any spell form? I asked as the halfling prepared. No, just simple ones with a single array. Scrolls are 2-dimensional, while most spells are 3-dimensional. He eyed me, seeing if I understood. I nodded. He then focused on the chalice, and the scroll script flared and crumbled to dust. Interesting piece here. It creates a weak poison, some type of alcohol. May I? Yep, it will kill me. He asked to use the chalice. I nodded my permission, and he filled it with water and activated the chalice. The water changed into an amber liquid, and the distinct smell of alcohol filled him as he sloshed the contents. The small man sniffed, sipped, swooshed, and spit. Wow, okay. He seemed to think before repeating the process. Elves Ambrosia. Decent quality. It is elven whiskey. It's hard to find outside of Essenham. It has a nutty, sweet flavor and is very smooth with no bite. He poured the contents of the chalice into an empty flask from a shelf and studied the chalice again. He went through the process again, pouring the contents into another flask, filling it. I arched my eyebrows at his boldness. How many flasks are you going to fill? Halfling was taken aback. Sorry, I should have explained. Transmuting artifacts like this usually have a limit on how many times they can be used in a day. He handed me both flasks. Hold them up to the light. I did, and could see the first flask was a much darker, thicker amber liquid than the second. See? The second transmutation was not as strong. This artifact should recover its full potency in a day. If the liquor from the second transmutation was clear, it could have taken a month or more to show its power. I reached to take back the black jade chalice. Tarval's eyes betrayed his desire for the device. I might be able to pull together 1,500 gold for this artifact. How much does a bottle of Alpha's Ambrosia cost? I asked in reply. Tarval's friendly mask fell a little. Depending on the quality, between 5 and 20 gold a quart. He looked reluctant to reveal his evaluation. This quality is closer to 20 gold end, but it would take 4 transmutations to fill a bottle. At least the halfling was being honest with me. I will hold on to it for now. If I need to sell it, I will know where to come. I produced another item, hoping it was less desirable than the chalice. Tarvin was immediately interested in the pink quartz ring. I got this in one of the reward chests in the dungeon. It depicted elves hunting elks in relief around the surface. Tarvin turned it while he studied the images. It is a hair clasp, artificed to clamp comfortably. It also has a spell form artificed into it. Do you wish its function revealed? I placed the coin on the desk with the other coin, and Tarvin retrieved another revelation scroll. When I finished, he smiled. Another dungeon artifact. He looked at me suspiciously before revealing its purpose. It has a simple spell form of a true strike. It is extremely helpful for archers, as it will slightly alter their arrow's flight on release to help hit their intended target. Relia! Does it have to be worn in the hair? I asked, looking at its pink color. I just trimmed my hair this morning and was months away from having long hair. And he doesn't shoot with arrows either. Tarvin looked at me, puzzled. It does, he replied slowly. He handed it back to me, but did not offer to buy this artifact. My questioning gaze had him reveal the value. At least 500 gold. There are many adventurers who would pay slightly more outside your empire. I paused, trying to decide whether to reveal any other artifacts. While I contemplated, Tarvin asked in a friendly manner. There are rumors that the Empire discovered a dungeon near Kaelora. I immediately tensed. I thought the Adventurers Guild managed all the dungeons in the Empire. I asked with the proper level of confusion in my tone. That is the agreement, yes, he said while studying me intently. If the reward for finding a dungeon came from the Adventurers Guild and Castile's company did not receive a share of the reward at this time but was allowed to keep what we found in the dungeon instead, it suddenly made more sense. Someone in the Empire was hoping to monopolize the shimmering labyrinth for themselves. Was the company in danger of being silenced to keep the dungeon secret? No, I doubted that. as I was certain Mateo and Benito had probably bragged to every legionnaire they shared a drink with. Tarvin was waiting for me. I heard the same rumors. A dungeon called the Shimmering Labyrinth. He nodded approvingly, and I thought it was time to leave, and I was glad I had not paid with any of the dungeon coin. I checked his potion stock, and he had nothing I was interested in. I purchased another 100 Oblivion pills as I pretended that was the main reason I had visited him, even though I had over 90 remaining. With the amulet, I found I didn't need to use them. Guildmaster Icarus escorted me out of the hall under the scrutinizing gazes of those present. I locked eyes with Desdemona as I passed and winked at her. She scowled back at me. I couldn't blame her for disliking the Empire, and me by extension. The streets were a bustle of activity as I returned to Mage College. I was on alert and didn't think it prudent for any side trips. The bells signaling midday rang in the city. Wait, hello, what about the nuts? When I reached the gate, he wasn't there yet. I held the bags of nuts in my hand or passed them off to the grateful sentries. I was like, he's already there. What are the nuts? We talked for a while, and I tried to get rumors of what was happening from them, but they knew very little, and I did not. When I opened the doors to Cinna's apartments, I was shocked to find Rena there. But didn't Cinna say, like, later today you and Rena will fucking or what? She stood in her grey robes, walked quickly toward me, and slapped me hard across the face. I had not been expecting that greeting. Otherwise, I would have defended myself. That was for yelling at me to leave you behind. I worked my jaw a little amused. She then slapped me hard again. That was for not telling me you were alive as soon as you returned to the Mage College. I was about to protest this harsh treatment when she wrapped her arms around my neck, or at least she tried to. I was done with being assaulted. I got behind her and wrapped her tightly. Are you done now? What is this? Wait. Whoa. Calm down. She struggled fiercely, but I had her hands bound. So there would be no magic. She huffed. I was going to kiss you next for saving my life. Oh, I said dumbly. Okay. I released my grip and she turned to face me. I lowered my head and accepted the passionate kiss. Oh, okay. This is so weird. The long kiss was followed by her dragging me to my tiny bedroom, and she now straddled me. Wait, okay, we're cutting. Okay. She looked down at the under her, and I think she liked being on top. In control. She smiled briefly, lowered her head, and accepted her lips again. Okay. Thank God. Thank God. I was like, I already had the one scene with the whoever the fuck it was, the bitch who we hate now, who was like me. Like the fucking the maid or whatever. Fuck her, dude. She sucked ass, and she was like, he has a fucking amulet, me. Okay, well, I guess Rena is fine. I guess Rena is fine. And yeah. Interesting 2 chapters. Mostly talking, we should like, oh my god. Because I was so like, okay, I got away from the library. And now this, I was like, no. But okay, we made it, we survived. We have survived. Very nice. And that was the 2 chapters that we were going to do. And since the heat is heating in here, I will not stay to play afterwards, so I will call it a day short and continue again tomorrow. Hopefully. Solar's Life, League Lore, play, whatever I have time with. Because I better have time, because I would like to. But now we will Wawa. I was like, it will be short but it's fucking better than nothing. That's what I went with today. So thank you so much for watching and reading with me. I hope you enjoyed it, even though it was a bit short. Feel free to follow me on my socials. You see them in chat all the time, and they're linked everywhere, so I don't have to call them out. And Willow has her own as well because she's a little cutie. She's there, right? No, she's somewhere. There you are. There she is. Oh. I realize you cannot see the camera anymore because I swapped the screen. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Have a nice rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Hey, bye bye.